I would say this is okay. There's a three-way tie for my favorite sport. Dock diving is my favorite with Phoenix. Rally is with Tesla. This psycho is scentwork, and it's so fun. It's also called nosework, depending on the venue. So this is a sport that is honestly growing in popularity by leaps and bounds. Like people that never thought they would do it, once they do it, they are hooked. And I got one of my friends on it, and she will not shut up about it. She loves it so much now. So, and she's also competed past at a people trial lately, but it's super duper fun. And this is also one that, out of all the sports, I would say this is probably the one dogs enjoy the most out of everything, because this builds into their natural thing. What dogs are is basically a giant nose filled with fluff and cuteness. That's what they are. And sometimes vocalization. So, scentwork is a lot of fun. There are different venues you can do to compete in it with, and we'll talk about those. This is also something where if you just want to do it straight up for fun, nothing else, you never want to compete, this is something that you really can do, and dogs will still enjoy it. AKC has done a virtual thing that I haven't done because to me it is counterproductive to competition level stuff, but it's where you just search for treats rather than searching for an odor. So there's options too if you don't have to worry about the odor stuff and all that. But depending on the organization that you are working in, there are at least technically 5 different odors that you would be having your dog eventually search for. The novice level for all the ones that I've done is the birch essential oil. So when we introduce odor today, it's going to be birch. Other ones are clove, anise, or anise. I don't actually know how to pronounce it because I write it down all the time, but something like that. Anise or anise, cypress. There is also handler discrimination, which is your dog has to find your scent. So you could have like a glove or a sock at the novice level and a bunch of boxes, and the judge is going to have their scent in a box, and then there's going to be a bunch of empty boxes. Your dog needs to say which box has your stinky sock or glove in it. And then as you go up higher, it's like cotton balls and things like that. And when I say stinky, we're all women here, so I'm just going to say it. Underneath the boob is especially stinky. So usually before people go in when they compete, you see all these old women take their socks and stuff out of their bra and put it in a box, and it's just like, that's some nasty boob sweat, but whatever. Whatever you gotta do. So those are your different odors. Now, some organizations might have other ones, but it just kind of depends on where you're competing. And then there are technically 5 different elements. So there's handler discrimination, which is you're only searching for your odor. There's containers, which at the novice level is literally these boxes not these, but these types of boxes. And then as you go in higher levels, it's similar type containers. So like when Zap did an advanced search, they had a bunch of like gym bag looking things. There was one where they had like sand pails, stuff like that. So it's like objects all lined up in a row, and your dog has to find 2 odors in that one. There's interior searches, which is like in this half of the room, you might have a tiny bit of odor hidden somewhere on something in here, and your dog has to say exactly where it is. I will say a lot of places I've trialed, at least a third of the time it's been in a bathroom, so I like to do a lot of bathroom searches, so it's somewhere in the bathroom on something, tell me where it is. Exterior is where it's done outside, so you might have objects laid out outdoors that you have to find, or it could literally be, I've done a lot of barns, which is super hard for her dog, but it smells like sheep and other livestock. You have to ignore those smells and all the manure smells. Tell me exactly where this one drop of birch is in this giant barn and tell me where it is. And then AKC does what's called buried, which is it's either buried under it's a container of sand, or in the more advanced level, it's sand or water, which water is actually easier than sand for that. But UKC does vehicle searches, which is it's on a vehicle somewhere. However, AKC has done a lot of vehicle searches as part of their exterior. So I train for both, but I also compete for both. So there's lots of stuff you can do with it, which is actually really cool and really fun. And then handler discrimination, it's always you're searching for your scent, and then it gets harder as you get in upper levels. So that's basically what it is. That's what I think about it. So titling organizations, you've got AKC, UKC, ASCA is looking at starting it, but they have not started it yet, so they probably will, I'm guessing, by next year when they finalize everything, but they don't have it yet. And then the other really common one is called National Association of Canine Scentwork, or NACSW. This is one that I see a lot of serious scent detection people doing. Not necessarily because it's better, but I do feel like they are slightly more challenging. The other thing with that organization is you have to pass what's called an odor recognition test, or ORT, saying your dog actually knows what this odor is. They have to pass that before they can start doing searches. So there is an extra layer to it. I have not done that one because, again, I already like AKC and UKC, so I just stick with those two. But ORTs and stuff, I've seen quite a few of those being offered in Oklahoma, so you still have options if you go out there. Excuse me. Minimum age to participate is 6 months or older. I have seen 6-month-old dogs do it successfully because, again, this is fun for a lot of dogs. It's kind of a natural thing for them anyway. Cost for titling. This is probably the number one downside. Just full disclosure, because there are so many elements and people get addicted to it, it does get expensive very quickly. So in a trial that offers all 4 elements of containers, interiors, exteriors, and buried, if you wanted to do all 4 with the dog, it's $20 for each one. So that's $80 for one trial, and you need to qualify 3 times for the title. So I do the math on that. To get what they call elite level in AKC, you need to pass those 10 times at that level. So if you want to do that, you can. If you don't have to go on to the next one, you just have to title your bare minimum. But if you're like me, you like the extra credit, and you also like elite at the end, because obviously. So you might be that crazy person that will spend that money. If your dog has earned their novice, you can do novice and advanced, or advanced and excellent mastered. So you can do 2 elements at once as long as they pass the previous one. So in a weekend with Zap, I have spent over $500 on 3 trials for doing all the elements, and that can add up real quick. So for if you did just one element, that's $20, not a big deal. But if you're doing all of them and you're doing multiple trials in a weekend, it's going to add up real quick. So that's probably the number one negative, honestly, to scentwork. Full disclosure, is out of everything, it's probably one of the more expensive things for that reason. Cost of supplies. It's a little bit more affordable, so you will need to have essential oils to be able to practice at home. That's just the root of it. But they do tend to last a while, so I've had my same one for about a year, and I haven't had to replace them. And I haven't done a ton of scent work in the last 6 months, probably more like 5 months. So they can last a while. You're not going to have to replace them a lot. The boxes, when I bought those, I think I spent $20, and it came with, I didn't mean to get as many as I did, but it came like 50 of them. So you guys are going to get boxes today, because I've actually been trying to get rid of them. So you get souvenirs when you go home. Congratulations. But, boxes are pretty cheap, and then you can do a lot of stuff just finding what you have at home, I'll go to public parks, and I'll hide scent odor there to practice exteriors and things like that, or if I've got some friends, I'll go and we'll meet up, and we'll put stuff on each other's cars, and so that part doesn't have to be expensive, but the titling part is expensive, unfortunately. Titling, it's all in person, with the exception of the 2, whatever AKC, I can't remember what they're called, but they're all virtual. They're not actual titles, and it's your dog is searching for either a toy or a cookie. I don't actually know anyone that's done it, because most people, if they're serious about scent work, you actually don't want your dog getting hooked onto finding cookies, because in the upper levels, you'll have cookies and boxes as distractions, so you don't want them always hitting on that. So it's good for starting. We are going to do cookies and boxes today, and then we're going to do odor, but it's not something you'd want to train hardcore long term if you really wanted to do competitive stuff. Training time, realistically, 4 months or more, just so your dog really has a good concept of odor. Zap, we actually started after about 3 months. But again, she's kind of a freak. So she's wired different, which has worked beneficially for me, but she picks stuff up really quickly, and she's really good at things really quickly. That's not the norm. So the other 2, I haven't titled them yet because you also, it's a downside if you have multiple dogs. You can't have everyone a novice at the same time because after one dog, you know where the box is. So that's the other thing. You've got multiple dogs. You can't have everyone the same element at the same time. So now that she's gotten higher up, the plan is essentially Phoenix, but side note. So it'll be a little bit of time training-wise, but you'll be able to get there without doing years and years of training. Competitiveness, it's very, I'd say it's competitive but friendly. There are placements, but you do not have to place to title or anything. So, for example, Zap, she's consistent and she's fast. So we had a reputation in Tulsa. People would see Zap's harness and go, crap, because we would usually get first because she could find something in 3 to 5 seconds. That's just her. Again, she's not normal. Versus it might take someone 15 seconds. So there are placements based on time, and then also error after that. But if your dog does the thing, you qualify, it works towards your titles, it's not a big deal. And people in scentwork are, I would say by far, probably some of the most friendly people. Scentwork, you're not going to see people being jerks about anything. A lot of reactive dogs that have kind of done a lot of work to be in that type of situation. People are usually respectful of giving you your space, so you're not lined up with a bunch of people. It's a good confidence builder exercise. So people are very friendly towards you and your dog in scentwork stuff, which is, I think, really nice. And the only other place I've seen that really is dock diving. Dock diving and scentwork are going to have the nicest competitors probably anywhere. So there is that aspect of it. Handler skill level, novice to intermediate. So you need to learn how to read your dog and how to feed your dog, and that's about it. Dog skill level, novice to intermediate, so your dog needs to learn how to actually use their nose, because most people have spent years saying stop sniffing everything and turn that off. Now we want them to really turn it on. So once they kind of figure that part out, it comes pretty naturally to them. It's just kind of adding those challenges of how to find odor, how to read it when they start picking up on it, different elements like that. Handler fitness level doesn't apply. You can be in a wheelchair and do it. It does not matter. Whatever you can do, as long as you can walk with your dog, that's all you need to do. Dog fitness level, really just healthy, but otherwise, I mean, I've literally seen 12, 13-year-old dogs feeding, and they're just hobbling along and searching for stuff. It does not matter. Your dog, as long as they are fit enough to be out in public, they can do this thing. Plan for travel. There unfortunately is not anything in Northwest Arkansas. However, Tulsa has a lot. Springfield has a lot. Joplin, right now, their kennel club is working on it. I think they actually do have a trial. Yeah, they just had an AKC trial recently, so I think they got approved finally. So you'll have somewhere within an hour, hour and a half, realistically, from here that you'll be able to compete at. So there's not a lot of overnight travel you're going to have to do. And things are offered pretty frequently because they pretty much always fill up. There have been a couple times I've tried to enter Springfield, and there's been a wait list because somebody left her. So something else to plan on. On-leash or off-leash. It does need to be done on-leash, but there are some instances where you can ask the judge if your dog can be off-leash. I've never asked for it because I'm fine with my dog on leash, but the problem you might run into is if your dog disturbs the search area and you don't qualify, or you could potentially have an error against you, and you can only have 3. So, which Zap has done once. She knew it was under a rock, so she literally flipped the rock over. So we qualified, but we didn't get placements because we were the only one that had an error because she flipped it and said, it's right here. So, but if your dog is off leash and they're climbing on things and disrupting the search area, you can cause some problems and potentially not qualify. This is probably the most beneficial thing, and why a lot of dogs that struggle with confidence, especially with food and toys removed, do well. You get to bring your treat pouch in the search area, and you get to feed your dog after they find it. So you don't have to worry about phasing out treats or food. Just have to make sure you don't disturb the search area. So if you've got a treat that's got a lot of crumbs and it falls on top of something, well, now you just shot yourself in the foot, and now you're in trouble. So can't have food falling on the stuff, and if you use a toy, you can play tug, but you can't be like bouncing a ball in the search area. So if you've got a good treat, they're just gonna pick right away. You're in good shape, and you can bring it in, and no problems asked. So that's kind of the skinny of it. But again, it's super duper fun. This is one that most dogs tend to love the most. So I love it. I love that it's growing, and it'd be awesome if have it down here, so I have to travel so far. But it is what it is. A couple things with scent work that is super important. So it may seem silly, but your dog's nose is super duper powerful. So I just redid my Q-tips, so they're extra super potent. So if you've got dogs that have never smelled this before. But typically what your dog would be searching for with odor is a drop of the essential oil on a Q-tip, hidden usually within a straw or something like that, hidden somewhere. So it is one little drop, and your dog has to find it in this giant room and smell it. So what that also means is those things are potent. So when I'm handling odor, if I'm not careful and I touch that odor and I touch other things, I'm now leaving odor other places. And so if my dog hits on something that's wrong, they might not actually be wrong if I touched it, because there is odor there. So boxes are usually easier to start out with, because obviously it's the odor touched that box or the odor didn't touch that box. You want to always make sure you know where odor was, so your dog is not incorrectly alerting on the wrong thing. You might actually be correct about it, if that makes sense. So when I'm first teaching dogs, the common term people will use is hot and cold. So a hot box means it's had odor in it before. Hot boxes don't touch cold boxes. Always keep them separate. A cold box means there's never been odor in it, never touched it, nothing you have to worry about, so it's not contaminated. This also goes for objects. So if you ever go to a trial, like an interior trial where they set up a bunch of objects, at the end what you'll see is when they're cleaning it up, a bunch of stuff in a pile over here, and a bunch of stuff in a pile over here. That's how they're separating the hot and cold things. Because you don't want to unintentionally expose your dog to something that you thought was cold that's actually hot, because then you're going to confuse your dog. And this has also been, it's actually my friend, which is kind of funny, but kind of not. We practiced at the same park without realizing it, and somebody might have left an odor, could have been somebody, I'm not going to put blame, but someone left an odor on something and forgot about it when we were doing multiple hides, and then someone else came to that park a different day, and their dog alerted on something, and they said, no, that's not right, and they looked under the table, and there was somebody, could have been anybody's, odor taped underneath that they forgot about. So, yeah. So she kept telling her dog, you're wrong, actually her dog was right. So sometimes when you think your dog is wrong, your dog is not wrong. Your dog's got a stronger nose than you do. When I was pregnant, I thought our noses were equal, and they probably were, but that's gone down. So trust your dog. When your dog learns it, usually if you trained it right, they are right. So sometimes it's actually a result of contamination or the way the wind has flowed using them. It might be stronger in one area versus another, so airflow is important to learn. There's lots of things that come into play for a dog being successful long term, but early on, main thing to think about is do not mix your hot and cold. So follow me so far. Yes.
So do you use gloves or something like when you're handling essential oils?
A lot of people do. I don't. I actually use tweezers when I handle things, and I always keep my tweezers in that box so I'm not touching something afterward. But yeah, so a lot of like judges when they're setting up their hides, most of them use gloves. A lot of people will use gloves. I hate gloves, so I just yeah. So good question. Any other questions?
I can't visualize it yet.
Yeah,
like
you'll visualize, don't worry.
And this is the kind of thing, like, we're not going to be titling and competition.
Mm-hmm.
If you could speak to this, like, as we're talking about it, like, how is this something you can do sort of just recreationally?
Oh, absolutely.
Enrichment.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can either do finding food which he would enjoy already, so it kind of limits a little bit, because obviously you can't just put a drop of food smelling like Q-tip. So some people will just do like search for food in the house and things like that, so he has to work his nose. So that's definitely fine and fun. If you want to do essential oils and stuff like that, you certainly can, and you can just make it more and more challenging. So people that don't want to title, it's just as fun. Like when I'm practicing with Zap, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's just as fun as my trial. I'm a title work, so I like the ribbons, and I like all the things, and I like people going, oh no, Zap's here, we're not going to get first. And it's like, yeah, you're not getting first, sorry. I got Zap here. I'm not first. But, so yeah, you can absolutely just recreational do it. And it's also fun too, because you get creative with where can you hide things. So like parks are great, and different
Do they
parts.
watch you? Like, is there a thing where you have to like not let your dog see you hide things? Like, I feel like Charles would be like,
Yeah, so eventually that's part of it. The other part, and this is one of the hardest things for people, is when you're trialing their blind hides. So I don't know where the hide is. My dog has to tell me, and I tell the judge. So when people are training, in the beginning, it's like, for example, you know which box it's in. So a lot of times your dog is going through and searching, and then your dog goes past you, and you stop here, like, well, I'm going to check this box out again. And that's actually a big mistake, because now you're teaching your dog, read the human to tell me where the scent is rather than me, the other way around. So blind hides are really important in the training process. So I have tried having my husband hide things, but then he would hide it like in a completely different room where I said, hey, hide it in the kitchen, and he'll put it in the bedroom. I'm like, you idiot. But so having other people do the hides, if they know how to handle it properly, is another fun way to kind of make sure it's truly blind. But if you hide them yourself, you can do that for fun. Just make sure you're aware of your body language, so you're not telling Charles where it is. Otherwise, it's kind of beautiful. But still a good question. Any other questions? All right. So how we're going to start is actually with food. And this is how I started with Zap, and I don't do this for more than a week or so. Zap, it was literally like 4 days because she picked it up like that. But what you're going to be doing is I'll have just 2 boxes. We're going to do this in your stations. You don't have to go anywhere. If your dog learning, hey, this box has a treat in it, this one doesn't. So they're having to learn to search for something and hunt a little bit. Then we'll incorporate a couple of boxes, and I'll show a Zap hand different steps you can take. Because once they start learning, hey, this thing that's on your face, start using it, and we'll find you some goodies. Then we can start going, okay, cool. Now you know how to find something you already like. Let's find something that stinks, but you don't know what it is. And we'll kind of build off of that. So with Zap, yes, you get to do Zap. I'm going to set up really quick the cookies.
So the hot box, you said sometimes hot box is the one that has the scent in it.
Yep.
And so, but you use it over and over again.
Yep.
But will it retain the scent? Like, are they just...
Eventually they can absorb. So that's why I also keep them separate, is because if I didn't have a treat in there, but it had a treat in there a week ago, it probably is still going to hold some of that odor or birch in there. So that's why you don't want to mix them. Now these ones haven't had anything in them. They're just best sitting out because I got 50 of them. But so they say hot now. Once stuff goes in them, they are hot, and you don't want to mix them after that. With treats,
so like a box would always be birch. Like
yep.
That birch would always be birch.
Yep. So there's a couple. You might see there's one that says hot egg. That was one that a long time ago I had a Senator Annis or Johnson. But that one is so old that there would not be anything you'd have to worry about after a couple of years. But yeah, so I'll usually put like an A, a B, or a C or something when I'm doing it at home, so I know what scent was in where. Some people will mix scents. It just kind of depends on your training philosophy and style. I like to keep them separate. Some people think it's better to mix them. I think it just depends on the dog. I don't think there's not a right or wrong way. But once you put actual odor in there, you do not want to mix it all. So once I put some birch in there, we definitely want to make sure these things don't touch, because then you get contact tracing, and we don't want that. So cookies, you can get away with a little bit, but yeah, good question. Any other questions? All right, so I'm going to take a really stinky jerky treat, I'm going to stick it in the hot box. Zap's going to lose her ever-loving mind, scentwork boxes. Now, if your dog is going to be like, whoa, you can just leave the box open. Because Zap knows to look for cookies, I'm just going to have them kind of propped open so there's air coming out, but she can't see the cookie. But if your dog is going to be like, this is weird, you can have them both open. Obviously, they'll see the cookie, but they're going to be searching. Are you ready to do something today? Get over. I got tangled up. I know, hang on. Oh my gosh, look at your hair blowing out. Ready? Find it. Good girl. So you'll click off the box, so you can have it, or if it's there, they'll eat it. So what I want to point out is when she searched, she went out and went, wait a minute, that was she caught odor right here. That's why she came over. What threw her off She has not searched for cookies since she started training in a couple years. So it threw her off for a second, but she knew that box had nothing. This had a cookie. So over time, yes, there's still nothing in there. The next phase of the game, is having another empty box. So if there's multiple options, choose one with cookie in it. And I've got these just slightly propped open. If your dog is completely new, have it like that, that's fine. Don't start yet. Don't start yet. Okay, find it. So she went to the end, kind of thought about it, and then came back to this one. I try and be mindful of my body language, so I realized I was standing in front of the hot one, so I tried to move away. Because I don't want to tell her where it is either. And some dogs will pick up on that. I did do a delayed click because I wanted to see if she would offer her actual way she tells me, which is she'll hold her nose still. That's what we do with actual odors. I was just curious, but I realized she was just going to keep cooking it, put it up on her own. So that's why it was a delayed click. But if you see a lot of interest, that's when you would click or mark and then once it had the goodie. Does that make sense? Alright. So I'm going to give you 2 boxes starting out. Once they're doing good about eating the cookie out of the hot box, then I'm going to give you a 3rd box. So you've got 2 cold, 1 hot. That's
I'm the assistant.
oh.
I'm Vanna White.
Okay.
I'm here to hand out box.
Hot. And just take that to whoever, and then come back.
Do you want me to just do hot?
Sure, that'll work. These have had nothing in them, so they won't matter. But and yes, you want to be going from the boxes. Yeah, you got the hot A. Congratulations. Oh yeah, they can just go a little bit. Again, if your dog has value for food, they will start searching after a while. If your dog is kind of about food, this is one that can take a little bit more time.
I don't want him to watch me do it.
You want me to hold him while you do it?
I feel like totally is like
Charles, we're distracted.
Look, he's like, is there something in the box?
Oh, no, hands up away. Oh, you let yours get there, dog. Okay. Are you sure you want the back front?
So now I just let him go.
Yep. And so as soon as you kind of see him go like, that's interesting, that's when you let him have the yums.
Like, I'm interested in the people right now.
What do you got? There you go. Good. So you lift up, let him eat the thing after. Good.
Good job.
Oh, yeah.
You're a cheater.
Do we have a bunch of cheers in here? Cheers? How many cheers? Good.
Okay, cook it away. Now I gotta mix that.
Wait, I'm gonna look at your box.
What's in the boxes? My friend.
Can we sit? Can we sit?
Like, wait, we're doing part 4, right?
I think she picked her favorite sport so far.
Yeah. So she's kind of watching her hands versus actually using her nose. So we're going to help her a little bit. I'm going to open both boxes up.
Okay.
So she can see them and realize, oh, there's stuff in here I should probably check out. Because right now she's very handler focused, which is great. I want her nose focused. We're going to open this one up too. So.
There you go. Good boy.
He's just walking past the boxes. You want me to open his up too?
Yeah, let's open his up too. There we go. And we'll do that a couple times, and then we'll try to close them again. And it's fine if they're in the same spot, just so you can wording.
He's figured it out. He's like, whoa, boxes.
Oh, it's a box of food. That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ambrose?
Well, it's kind of close to being a dog. I'm not interested in dogs. You're looking away.
Oh, she's got the hang of it now.
Okay. Oh, are you eating it? Did you figure it out?
She's all over this game now.
Oh, did you figure it out? If you want to grab some of the old boxes, and they're the ones on the right, and give one to her, I think also, after this one, Charles might be ready for a third box. Hey, Amber. No, not the other dog's boxes. Like your boxes. That's okay. Good! There you go! So we had a new box, but he was like, no, this one. Good! And if your dog is ready for another challenge, good job. Rather than having your boxes propped open, have them sealed. They can still find odor. This is how the boxes actually are in scentwork. It's actually closed.
Boxes are all over there. She does her.
So if they're doing great, knows it.
Okay. Big open.
It's like it's right here. Alright, so he figured it out already. I told you they're natural. They can just have food in it. So he knows that there's
your station.
Hi, Ambrose. Hi, my handsome boy. Hello. Can I take you home? Would you be okay with me?
And maybe swirl them around a little bit. She's going to hit that box first.
Okay.
Yes.
I got it.
Yes. Go ahead and try and get one more, and now we're going to start introducing odor.
She's sort of a, overachiever. She's like, do you want a toy in a hot box for me? I know.
So we're ready for a case first one.
You said you've done search and rescue, though, right?
Okay. So not completely.
Not really an overachiever.
Not your first rodeo.
Not your first.
Good job, Ambrose. Good. All right. Whenever you are done, I'm going to actually have Sean fill your hot box.
Okay. Good. Let's go find it. I know that it's a pretty big jump from a creek to a Twitter, but she hasn't even seen that box yet. I don't know quite how to get her there without absolutely. But here, let's just see if she can even acknowledge it.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Here you go. Here you go.
Fun fact, water is good because all that slobber actually absorbs odor more. So a lot of people, before they go in, will make their dog chug water because their lips are wet.
Really?
Yes. Also a good way to cheat. If you see a box that's got a bunch of water on it, probably 50 other dogs alerted on it. So,
And it's got like 50 other scent, like
yeah. So
alerting says.
it's a way to cheat. No one should cheat, but it's a possibility to cheat that way. Only really works though with the boxes. Doesn't really work on anything.
All the time. It's every place in another room. And she has to go find it.
I'm going to have you just put the hot on the flames really quick because I'm going to show the next thing with that. So you're going to have just two boxes starting out. Hot box, which is going to have a birch essential oil smell in it on a Q-tip. These are super duper fresh. I literally added it while you guys were pottying dogs. And when I open it, I can smell it. So I can probably find the box if I sniff good enough. So what's going to happen is it's going to be there. You've got your cold box, your hot box. Just like with the treats, when your dogs will realize that food was in there, they kind of, they're really interested in it because it smells weird. That's what you're going to start alerting on, or rewarding them on for the alert. But what you're going to do is, rather than opening the box for them to eat the Q-tip, because we don't want that, you're going to mark and then give them a treat or a cookie or whatever their reward is over the box. You can give multiple treats if you want. That is totally fair game. When I first teach a dog, they get jackpots when they finally go, this smells funky. That's what we want. With Zap, her alert is she holds her nose over the thing. That's how she tells me where it is. That is something that I have trained. That is something that I wanted, so I've required that criteria. There are a lot of people that train where they just go off of the dog looks different, and so when they pick up on odors, you just go off of reading your dog. So the first time when I brought her out with a cookie, and she blew past it and went, whoa, and then came back to the box, a lot of people that have trained that way would have just alerted because she turned and faced that box because they read the dog. I want my dog to say, this is exactly what it is specifically, so that's why I like the hovering nose thing, because it just allows me to be more consistent. There's no right or wrong way, just how I taught it. So, and there's some trainers that they might do either or method. So whichever one you're comfortable with is fine, but I'd say for today, go off of the body change that you see in them. So, hot box. Got 30 box to make it the first one. Because I'm where to think it's always the second one. I should probably have some cookies if anyone wants to take, huh? Yes. All right. Ready? Okay. Find it. That's a false powder. Good girl.
Oh, that was really, I like that.
So, Rookie, I would have probably done that one, but that's why sometimes if I'm unsure, I know it's the right one, I wait for her to, no, it really is this one. And I'm going to go this other direction now also, because sometimes it's always the first one, or always the second one. I know you think it's that one, you think try those things, but think of that. Ready, psycho? Not those things. You have
It smells really good on that map, though.
Oh, yeah. Find it. So it's the hovering that's why I require it, because she did do a little change of behavior with that one, but she really held her head on that one. So that's why I teach a specific thing versus just going off of change of behavior.
So the idea is that they're just smelling something stronger and more intense. Like it's not like you give them a scent and then go find this scent.
Yep.
It's just find a scent.
Yep.
Do they become familiar with the, like, because there must be a million scents, like, in our backyard, let's say.
Yep.
Like, but there's one drop of cedars or whatever.
Yeah. So they will start to learn it's this specific odor because they've been trained to find that one after so much. But it's not like what you see on TV, like, smell this hairbrush and find it.
So is it like if you were just playing, like if it was just enrichment, would I just pick one scent?
Yeah, I'd probably do one starting out so it's less confusing.
Okay.
Which I'd probably do birch because it is, like when I open that up, I can smell it and I can smell the box too. But in the beginning when we're first doing this, it's a weird smell, so they're naturally going to be like, this is that. But then over enough time of conditioning, it's, I get paid for this scent versus an empty box or other things. So, for example, when we have to do it in a competition environment and it's in a barn, I'm competing with manure.
Right, yeah.
This dog likes eating poop.
Right.
So she would rather tell me where the poop is, but it's okay, I've been conditioned to tell you where the birch and anise and whatever level we're at is at. So she'll learn on those instead. In a perfect world. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she tells me where the poop is, but
She'll look longingly at the food.
yeah, she goes, hey, this is actually better. So
Take note.
yeah, but for a dog that's first learning, because they just started learning to turn on their nose to find treats, now they're going to go, what the heck is that? And that's what we're going to start rewarding because it's new, and so they're just going to be kind of curious about it. And so once they realize that scent pays, they're going to start looking for that scent. Does that make sense? All right. So So when Shanti has a second, I'm gonna have her take that hot box and give it to somebody, and I'm gonna start putting stuff in the other hot boxes. Because once I start touching them, I might contaminate them, which we don't want. So that one's hot, like hot. And if you could take away one of the cold, I'll take one of the boxes.
Want me to take the cold or you?
If you'd like to take them away. That way they don't have so much at once.
I know, birch is nice and strong.
Yes, it is.
Which I love birch. Take the cold away. So it's funny because you're talking about how there's nothing really in this region.
Uh-huh.
I, in my crazy mind, I want to offer.
Yeah.
Scentwork?
I basically, one of the reasons I really wanted to start introducing sampler classes like this one here is I'm trying to draw more interest to Northwest Arkansas, because between this facility, the 5 acres in P Ridge, the opportunity to maybe rent some space someplace, I think we could draw to this area these types of competition sports. And if for whatever reason,
Yeah, it's definitely growing. There's some classes being offered that the ones I know of, they are filling quickly. So.
right, so we just have to find the instructors. So this is,
Oh, yeah, there's one.
kind of in my mind,
Yeah.
this is a teaser to start people going, that was a lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed this.
Yeah. Yep.
Even if not for competition and title, like we enjoyed this.
Right.
And if that's the case, let's grow it here.
Yep.
I always have a motive.
Scentwork in particular, or
All of the stuff she's talking about.
Do you teach what classes?
So I'm recording the dog.
But I do a rally for
showing
relationships.
interest in the hot box.
So rally
if
for
you
relationships. I'm
go
not
past
as
this.
concerned about heel. I'm not concerned about points. I'm not concerned about titling.
Competition
keep
level.
on going,
Right,
and if
but
it's
if people are
going
doing really
full
well,
time,
like Pinto, right?
good,
Little
then
Pinto,
I
he would do okay. He's very driven to be exact.
Okay.
Bali,
I try to do that right after.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I actually know I'm not. I want to know exactly how it's supposed to be. I mean, not that I can train my dog to do that right now, but
well, but
I like that. I like
but
what
for
it's
dogs
supposed to
and
look like.
people that find precision to be enjoyable,
Yeah, I like
and that is
precision.
a fun activity.
Yeah.
Dogs like Pinto, he gets off on when he gets it right.
Right.
If you do it wrong, he gets mad at you. So I would love. Oh, I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Can we just let him?
Yep. Any interest in the box at all, you're gonna reward. No, we're distracted. Boxes are actually harder than. So I probably wouldn't take all these other cool
It's
ones.
all about the people right
I want her just thinking about the shape. It might help her. I'm gonna crop that over.
That was a lot of interest on that. He was really sniffing that, like, oh, there's something in here, guys.
Good boy. He already like stuck his nose in there, but then I gave him a verbal and he just like not interested.
That's okay.
I mean, he was interested in this.
Yeah.
Look at you over. Look at this.
Good job, Amber.
Amazing. I would capture that.
Yep, I would. And you'll feed right over the box. So don't drop your treat on the box, but you're gonna say, hey, this is where the food is.
That's not. You want to go? What do you want to do? You go party. That's fine. I think he wants the people's.
Hello.
No. Like that option.
You're not a therapy dog. You need the therapy.
Yes. It's mutually beneficial.
It's yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing there?
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
That birch oil is really, really strong, and even though it's enclosed in a box, it will stick to your hand, so be careful how frequently you move those around.
Oh, okay.
Fix it up for you.
I would be happy to move those around or do it with your feet. One right foot up. If the oils,
The more we
they
move
are
it around, then let's check out these other boxes.
rather than, I don't want to get too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's my only concern.
Well, with the toy, you're gonna have the same problem, especially if you do use competition, because they do the toys out. Yeah, which Zap likes to pick all of them up and then tell me where the thing is.
And the food just starts to elicit the behavior, and once they know what you're doing over time, the food is no longer part of what's in the box. It's just to clarify that
There you go. Good.
they're beautiful.
So any interest in it is what you're going for.
Oh no, I had peaches.
And scent work is exhausting too, so if I do scent work with a dog for 30 minutes, she's done for the day. So it's a nice hot activity.
I think he's just not sure what we're doing exactly. I mean,
That's
since he found it the first time, so how do you already day?
So I just kind of bring them back and then kind of same thing of, oh, any kind of interest in it? I'm going to click and feed over it or mark and feed over it.
I'm going to take your boxes in different locations so we can see if she's looking at the box versus okay. Yeah, because right now I'm just reporting her for the box that has a smell and she's getting fed by the smell. Correct. And that's what I also closed one box. I got you. And I just flipped their location. So let's see what she.
There you go, right there. Good.
When do you start introducing the find it cue to the game?
So I introduce it once the dog has shown me that they understand there's an odor in the box to find. So they're kind of just doing like what they're all doing right now, just kind of like, that's weird. I wouldn't have a Q-tip, but when they're kind of going by and going, that's what we're doing, that's when I put the find it.
Okay. And so like she's sniffing both boxes. But she didn't necessarily slow down, but she clearly sniffed both boxes, but she clicked her when she sniffed the hot box.
Yep.
Okay.
That's fine, starting out, especially if they're really curious about what's going on.
Right. And she's so handler.
Yeah.
Ooh, almost. She's starting to get the idea about look for it.
Yep.
I love this. This is so fun.
And that's the challenge if you have a dog that is very handler focused, is they kind of keep going, okay, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Or are you going to tell me where it is? And that's where your body language also becomes very important, because if you're constantly like stopping in front of it, or if you're walking by and you slow down, they're going to pick up on all those things. So that's kind of the big challenge you're going to run into.
I think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi, baby. Guys, you're doing so good.
It's a long day.
It is. Just one more thing. And so the cold boxes, you guys get souvenirs to go home, and I'll send one hot box home if you want to take a hot box home.
Yes, please.
All right.
And I have to run.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so very, very much.
My pleasure.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the scent video and restart for the next one.
Yep.
So that and what I'll do is, my son is now my editor, my video editor, and I'm going to have him put them together so that you tell which is which. It'll have a nice little break in the middle, but it'll be on one video.
Or the last two, or this one.
Yeah.